Hello and welcome everyone to today's press briefing, our first briefing after the summer. So my name is, and I should put off my mask actually. So my name is Marie-Agnes Heine and I'm the head of the communication department at the European Medicines Agency, EMA. We want to use today's press briefing to update you on recent developments regarding COVID-19 vaccines and treatments, and we'll also be happy to respond to your questions on these and related topics. I'm delighted to have today with me three colleagues. To my right, Dr. Marco Cavaleri, the head of Biological Health Threats and Vaccine Strategy. And to my left, Dr. Fergus Sweeney, the head of Clinical Studies and Manufacturing Task Force, and Dr. Georgy Genov, the head of Pharmacovigilance. As usual, your microphone is disabled by default for the duration of the briefing. Initially, Dr. Cavaleri will provide you with an update on recent developments, and then we will have about half an hour for questions. The briefing is being broadcast by YouTube and Europe by satellite, and as always, the footage can be used for free by all media. And you will find the respective links, as always, in the invite you received. I'm now handing over to EMA's Head of Biological Health Threats and Vaccine Strategy, Dr. Cavaleri. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much for joining us for this briefing today. As this is the first briefing after the summer break, I would like to share with you some of the most relevant updates since our last virtual encounter. First, I would like to stress once again the importance of vaccinating all the eligible individuals who have not yet completed their full vaccination course against COVID-19. Vaccination efforts are still ongoing in the European Union and worldwide, and as EMA and the European Centre for Disease Control and Prevention have highlighted in their most recent joint statement, the evidence shows that all the vaccines authorized in Europe for use against COVID-19 have a high degree of protection. Indeed, all the currently approved vaccines protect from the most dire consequences of COVID-19, hospitalization, severe COVID-19, and death. Therefore, from a public health perspective, the priority should be placed on making sure that as many people as possible are fully vaccinated. When it comes to additional vaccine doses, the evidence is becoming clearer on the need to consider this option for people who may poorly respond to COVID-19 vaccination, such as immunocompromised individuals. People with severely weakened immune system may need an additional dose as part of their primary vaccination. EMA is currently assessing data from the literature on the use of additional third doses of a messenger RNA vaccine, either Comirnaty or Spikevax, in this population, especially in solid organ transplant patients who are treated with high doses of immunosuppressive agents. I would also like to come back to the topic of booster doses, which, differently from additional doses, are given to fully vaccinated individuals in the general population with the aim of restoring the protection offered from vaccination after it has waned over a certain amount of time. The current evidence, which is based on the analysis of real-world data on vaccine effectiveness and the duration of protection, shows that there is overall still considerable protection from severe disease and hospitalization in the general population. However, an increase in breakthrough infection has been reported in different parts of the world due to the Delta variant. In light of these trends, whether certain vulnerable groups might benefit already now from booster vaccination is under discussion in most of the European member states. While it is still uncertain when booster doses might be administered and if timing should vary across different populations, EMA has already started evaluating an application for use of a booster dose for Comirnaty, the vaccine developed by Pfizer-BioNTech, for the use of a booster dose to be given at least 6 months after the second dose in people 16 years or older. EMA Human Medicine Committee, the CHMP, will carry out an accelerated assessment of the data submitted by the company, which includes the results of an ongoing clinical trial in which around 300 adults received a third dose of the vaccine after approximately 6 months after the second one. The outcome of this evaluation is expected in a few weeks from now. Other manufacturers may soon follow a similar path and submit data on the use of a booster dose. As an example, Moderna has started submitting to us some data with respect to their clinical trials with booster doses. EMA, anyway, will continue together with the ECDC to collect and review all the available data on additional and booster doses. EU member states, through their National Immunization Technical Advisory Group, the so-called NITAGs, may proceed anyway with plans to administer additional or booster doses as a proactive measure to protect public health before a regulatory decision can be taken. Such decisions are very well understood from the agency in the current of the emergency context that we are going through. Our work has continued over the summer to increase the manufacturing capacity and supply of vaccines. We have been able to scale up vaccine production quite significantly by granting authorization to new active sites, manufacturing and fill and finish sites as well. These sites have made additional millions of doses of COVID-19 vaccines available for the ongoing vaccination campaigns. Other vaccines are currently in rolling review, the last one being Vidprevtin, a COVID-19 vaccine developed by Sanofi Pasteur, which is based on the spike protein combined with molecules that would enhance the immune response. As you know, 4 vaccines are in rolling review since the first month of 2021, and the timetables had to be continuously adapted based on the expected availability of the data that are required in order to come to an approval. We do remain confident that we can progress at least the majority of these rolling reviews towards a possible approval later on this year or at the beginning of the next one. The COVID-19 vaccines, with several hundreds of millions of doses administered in Europe and billions worldwide, continue to show a very high degree of safety in all the populations. Worldwide safety data demonstrates that the adverse effects of COVID-19 far outweigh any possible side effects related to the vaccines, which are, for the vast majority, mild and moderate adverse effects. EMA and the member states continuously analyze the report of suspected side effects in order to detect any potential new safety signal. EMA publishes regular safety updates for all the authorized vaccines, which provide an overview of how emerging worldwide safety data has been assessed by our safety committee, the PRAC, and EMA also publishes the main outcome of the PRAC assessment on a regular basis. EMA will continue to closely monitor and assess any report of suspected side effects and will continue to proactively communicate on any new relevant safety issue. Besides vaccines, therapeutics are needed for patients that can't get healed with COVID-19. And we are currently reviewing extension of indication for 3 immunomodulatory agents that are called baricitinib, tocilizumab, and anakinra, all of which should be used to treat patients hospitalized with COVID-19 on top of standard of care. Also, we are reviewing 4 different antiviral monoclonal antibodies products, the single agents randomimab and sotrovimab, and the cocktails of 2 different monoclonal antibodies, casirivimab, indevimab, and bamlanivimab, etesivimab. These neutralizing antibodies products are aiming to treat mild COVID-19 to avoid disease progression, and in some cases are also supposed to prevent COVID-19. Opinion by the CHMP may come, at least for some of them, by October. Discussion is also ongoing with other developers in order to expand the portfolio of available therapeutic options from prevention to treatment of severe disease. I will stop here, and I'm happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Many thanks, Dr. Cavaleri, and we will now take questions from the floor. So if you wish to ask a question, please click on the emoticon icon at the bottom of the WebEx window to raise your hand. And when I give you the floor, please unmute yourself and turn on the camera. You can then start by stating your name and affiliation and ask your question. So let's get started. The first question today is from Maria Psara from Greece paper EFSIN. Maria, please go ahead.
Good morning. Thanks for the briefing. Actually, it's Maria Psara with Star TV Greece. I have two questions, if I may. The first one is that yesterday the PRAC committee announced some new side effects for AstraZeneca and Janssen vaccines. Do you think that this kind of announcements help people to obtain confidence for these vaccines? I mean, why should people trust these two vaccines? And the second question, what do you propose for the vaccination of children in order to keep the schools open this year? How safe should parents feel for their children? And what is your proposal for the children under 12 years? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. So the first question is for Dr. Genov. Georgy, please.
Okay, thank you for the question. Indeed, we continue to closely monitor the safety of all vaccines, and that includes, you referred to AstraZeneca and Janssen vaccines. These are the adenoviral vaccines, for which indeed the committee identified some additional side effects, notably now establish possible link to GBS, so that is a nerve inflammation. I think overall the safety of all four authorized vaccines is remarkably good, and the vaccines are highly efficacious. It is important, though, to note those potential very rare side effects and the symptoms that could be associated with those disorders, so that treatment can be initiated very early. And we remain committed to share any further information that becomes available on any of the safety aspects. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Genov. For the second part of the question on vaccination in children, Dr. Cavaleri, please.
Yeah, so as you know, the two messenger RNA vaccines approved in Europe are currently approved from 12 years of age. So it is considered that the benefit risk of the use of this vaccine in adolescents is positive. And what we're seeing also emerging from the United States with the Delta variant spreading around is that there is a massive increase of hospitalization due to the Delta variant, which affects mainly adolescents which are not vaccinated. In terms of children below 12 years of age, we do expect to receive data, at least for some of the vaccines during the fall, in order to understand, starting from the ages of 5 to 11, whether a positive benefit risk can be reached there as well. So we will follow up this matter, and we will try to understand whether indeed this vaccine can be used also in children below 12 years of age.
Thank you very much. The next question comes from Helen Collis from Politico. Helen, please go ahead. Helen, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now it's okay.
Great. Thank you very much for the press conference. It's good to have them back again. Can you tell me a bit more about the data requirements for the booster dosing applications? You mentioned that the community booster data is being reviewed. I'm wondering, given that there are several vaccines available and authorized in the EU, how countries will be looking at administering boosters if, say, only one vaccine is approved for a booster dose, say the community one later, but their population have received a whole host of different other vaccines. So is the EMA requiring data of boosters on top of other vaccines, or just solely on that one type of vaccine? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen. Dr. Cavaleri?
Indeed, the booster data that we'll be receiving and we will be assessing essentially are studies that are looking into the safety and immunogenicity of this booster dose that is given, let's say, at least 6 months after the completion of the primary series. And this is what is normally done also for other vaccines as well. So that will be the primary basis of the evaluation. And these data indeed are based on what we call an homologous booster. So in other way, a third dose of the same vaccine that was given in the primary series That is what the companies are intending to submit to us as the primary evidence in order to support the approval of a booster. But as you rightly say, the reality in the member states and also elsewhere in the world would be that in a lot of cases, the booster may follow a different type of vaccines or a different brand of the same type of vaccine than the one of the booster. So that's the reason why we are quite eager to collect data and evidence with respect to what we may call heterologous booster in order to see whether we could expand the product information for this booster in order to cover this such kind of use, which we expect will be a reality.
Thank you very much. I'm now taking a question of Susie Ring from Bloomberg. Susie, please go ahead.
Hi there. I just wondered if Marco could expand on some of the comments he made about the antibody treatments and use for prevention. I think there were a few that he mentioned and talked about a review being made with an October decision, but obviously they're coming from a number of different companies. Have you, for example, received the application for conditional marketing approval from AstraZeneca, which was the most recent to report? And are you expecting a host of decisions then in October for a variety of antibodies?
Thank you very much. Dr. Cavaleri.
Indeed, the four that I mentioned are the ones that are most advanced. They've already started rolling review before the summer and are quite mature for a potential conclusion in the coming weeks and by October. But there are others that will be coming. The AstraZeneca one that you mentioned is one of those. So we are engaging already with the company and try to understand what could be the next steps in order to advance the evaluation of these monoclonal antibodies as well. And there are a few others that have already generated clinical data that we will be assessing in the near future.
Thank you very much. The next question comes from Ludwig Burger from Reuters. Ludwig, it's your turn.
Thank you very much. Maybe if you can follow up on what you said earlier on the ongoing rolling reviews and maybe talk us through these four individual procedures separately, if you can. And you did mention the pediatric or below 12 years of age process. You mentioned the fall. I understand there are much more precise estimates on the timing out there. So I wonder if you could comment on that specifically on the BioNTech application. Thank you.
Dr. Cavaleri again.
So starting from the rolling review, as you know, the CureVac vaccines has delivered some top-line results that were made public before the summer break. And we will be assessing all this clinical data in the coming weeks. So it's imminent, the submission of all this clinical data, and we will see what kind of conclusion we can draw then on this data. Then we got the Novavax vaccine that has also published a number of results of clinical trials. And also with them, we will be engaging in the coming weeks in order to see how we can progress, particularly on the aspects of manufacturing, and if we can see that we can conclude on this vaccine by the end of this year. Then we got the Sputnik and the Sinovac vaccines, and for these vaccines, the discussion with the company has been quite constructive, but it looks like there are more data that need to be submitted to us before we can progress with the different rolling review. So it's a bit more uncertain to understand what could be the time frame of the progression of the evaluation of these two others vaccines that are in rolling review. Then coming to your question on pediatric, as you know, the messenger RNA vaccines companies have already declared that they may have data ready for submission to regulators even by the end of September or in October. So we are discussing with them and trying to understand if this will be the case or whether there will be any delay. But we will be prepared to start looking at this data before the end of the year.
Thank you very much. The next question comes from Victoria English from MedNew. Victoria?
Yeah.
Okay, we hear you.
But I'd also like to raise the question about variant, which has only come up once so far. I mean, we're all focused on the Delta variant. Is there anything else out there that we should be concerned about in terms of changes in the virus itself?
Dr. Cavaleri, please.
Of course, we are looking very carefully at what is emerging in terms of variants, not only ourselves, but a lot of other public health bodies across the globe, and we are in discussion with all of them. As you know, besides Delta, which is really the dominant variant right now and the one that we have to really focus on, we are also looking into other variants that might be spreading, like the Lambda one and more recently the Mu one. The Mu one being potentially more of concern because of the potential increased immune escape that it may show. However, I have to say that we don't have yet data that will show that the Mu variant is spreading that much and whether it will have any chance to overtake the Delta variant as a dominant strain. Nevertheless, we will be discussing with developers if data can be generated to show what is the level of cross-neutralization against also this emerging variant.
Thank you very much. So far, we only have one additional question in the chat, but I think this was responded to. It is from François Bossier from APM, who asked, are the data provided for the Comirnaty booster dose immunological or clinical data? And does the EMA need clinical data? But I think, Dr. Cavaleri, you responded to that one already. Otherwise, I don't see any additional questions. So I want to thank you very much for participating in this press briefing, and also a big thank you to my colleagues here at the desk for their participation. If you have any further questions, please, as always, do not hesitate to contact our press office at press@ema.europa.eu. And thank you very much. Bye-bye.